Welcome back one last time to the Swiss portion here in Masters Tour Seoul. It's been a long ride here over the last couple of days to get through to our top 8, but we're starting to see some of the players I just saw tweeting out about their top 8. We haven't got the official ruling quite yet here on the caster's desk.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. Well, I'll give one. Felky and I saw got through to top 8, which I'm very happy about.
Okay.
I think, again, I talk about it a lot, but I think that the French community in general has not had the results it deserves compared to how strong of a country it is. So I'm glad to see him getting through. But right now we're going to take another quick look at a couple more of the matches in round 12 of the Swiss to find out who is in with a chance of getting through to that top 8. We just saw the victory for Zhong on the Shaman, which got him up to a 9-3 record, a respectable score, but we're not quite sure if it will be enough to get through.
Yeah, and even those players who do not quite make it through to the top 8, they also receive qualifications to Budapest.
Bucharest.
Bucharest.
Yes.
I said Budapest. Bucharest.
Similar enough.
they kind of muddle together in my head sometimes. Yeah. As well as, of course, earning prize money.
Yes.
And for some of these players, if they are sort of in contention for the Grandmaster spots, right? Because toward the end of the year, the players who have the highest earnings from the Masters Tour are promoted to the Grandmasters. Even if they don't necessarily make the top 8 here, if they have good results through the other tours, that could get them into that sort of upper echelon.
That's right. We've already seen that from Calyx now, who got a pretty respectable finish here as well. 8-4, I believe he got at this tournament, as well as 9-3 at Vegas, which means even though he hasn't qualified through quite yet to Grandmasters, given that the spot in Season 3 later on will be given to highest prize money earners, he's putting himself in a pretty good position. With a good finish at Bucharest, he could be our European representative. But first of all, we're going to have to find out who else does well at this particular Masters Tour before we head over to Bucharest. And to do that, we're going to be having a look at deads17 up against Staz. Staz is a player who I find, despite being impressed with his play, I still consistently underestimate him.
Yeah, Staz is in an interesting position because he is a player who is in the Grandmasters. He's in the Grandmasters for Asia Pacific, and he's also a player who is among the top prize earners of all time in Hearthstone. Right. He was the winner of one of the major was the WESG,
yeah.
And won a huge chunk of change there, and now is hoping to add to that. He's at 9-2, so the winner of this, I believe, is guaranteed to be in, and I believe even if Staz loses, given the fact that he was 8-0
he's in with
to begin the tournament, there's a very good chance that he will make it into the top 8 regardless.
And it's an interesting point you bring up about his large prize money earning, because that is what got him through to Grandmasters, I believe, being one of the top prize earners, as was one of the qualification categories. And I think that's kind of been a positive and also a detriment to him. He's struggled against the idea of being a one-trick pony, that he only had one good tournament in him and hasn't been able to eclipse that since. But I'm really glad that in Grandmasters getting through to the semi-finals of playoffs, as well as here getting a very good run at Masters Tour Seoul, he's dispelling that misbelief about him.
Yeah, Staz, actually, I remember him from one of the very first championships on the HCT system several years ago, I think back in 2015. And at the time, he had, I believe, been in position to qualify, I believe even for BlizzCon a previous year, but wasn't able to get a visa approved.
Oh, wow.
So he's someone who's really been a part of the competitive community for a very long time. And now is really able to really showcase his skills.
For sure. Going into this match, it is his Reno Hunter, a bit of an underdog, or at least an unexpected result in terms of how well it did, at least for me, in this tournament. And he's been doing very, very well with it. A Hunter God, I think it's fair to call him at this point. He's been playing it consistently in Grandmasters and didn't lose a single series in the second half of the Season 1.
Yeah, we actually, we've seen this matchup, not with Deads and Staz specifically, but I believe it was Deads and another player who was also playing.
Perhaps Topo Pablo?
I think, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but one of the things that stood out to me when I was casting this early, I believe we may have been casting this too.
What?
Well, specifically, it was the game 1, the Rogue was able to win. And then game 2, the Rogue.
Yes, I remember.
The Rogue pivoted to using, and I believe it was Deads, in fact, pivoted to using
the
secondary deck that was much more anti-control, and that just went very poorly for him. And I'm curious to see in this matchup if Deads decides to stick with that plan that had not worked out in the previous match.
For the moment, though, Staz has got himself in a very reasonable position, because I think given that this Hunter deck is relatively aggressive, you know, it's a Reno Hunter deck, it's not a full-on aggressive Hunter as some players like Viper have been knocking about as an idea to try and play in tournaments. It still functions relatively aggressively, and therefore getting off to a strong aggressive start like this, I think is pretty paramount in beating the Rogue, because its healing tools, outside of the Ziliax that's just been played, are very, very limited.
I'm a little curious about the specific choice that Staz just made here. He could have used his Ziliax to magnetize on one of these microbots. And what that would do would get his Ziliax out of the range of just a 2 damage removal effect. And there's a lot of those in the Rogue deck. There's Backstab, there's SI Agent, there's a non-combo Eviscerate. And you know, Deads is able to just get rid of the Ziliax straight up. And you know, that would not necessarily have been possible, and certainly would have been possible with a comboed Miscreant here if he'd chosen to magnetize. Would have cost him 1 damage. But it would have prevented this situation that happened.
That's true. I guess Staz's thinking may have been that he wanted to play around Waggle Pick or Hooked Scimitar, which in that case would be you know, bigger overkill on the non-magnetized Ziliax. But I think overall I agree with you. With the SI, the unactivated Eviscerate, and the Backstab, it seems 3 health over 2 is a pretty good breakpoint against Rogue. All
right, tracking. Finds nothing. We're going to see what he chooses in just a moment. You know, important to keep in mind for those of you who are watching who are confused why the cards are not showing up on the screen. Yeah. These are games that were recorded, and we are seeing playback of them. So, did not have the discover options or the pick options from that tracking available to us now, unfortunately.
That's right. They would have happened about an hour ago. Just as we headed into round 12, the final round of Swiss. But it does mean that we'll be able to bring you the actual initial matches a lot quicker after this is done. So when we can find out what was picked off of the marked shot as well, good lord, this was a discovery turn, we'll be able to see what his plan is.
Multi-shot. All right, well, keeps picking away with these minions, and frankly, with 30 life and a fairly wide board here, you know, this is a pretty decent situation for Staz. The Rogue decks are not terribly good at dealing with multiple minions at once. You know, they're good at killing a couple of small things, but 4 is much more difficult.
That is true, but at the same time, Deads has a hand full of lackeys, which is pretty infamously good at swinging back board control in your favor. And I imagine it will do exactly that, at least for this turn.
He's going to decide to evolve the into... that's not a bad target for that Titanic lackey.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Just a bit of health is pretty important.
You know, that 0-6 may seem bad, but now it's a 0-8 taunt, and that is going to secure Deads the board pretty handily.
Does also pretty much guarantee that if Bran Dino Hunter was played on this turn, the King Crush would have to trade into that, which is perfectly acceptable, I think, for Deads.
It's like, yeah, I will attack your 2-drop. Rah!
He will really absolutely ruin that mana reservoir, though. He will not know what hit it. That's it. I would imagine going to be starting to, I don't know, not necessarily second guess his pick off the Ethereal Lackey, but he would have been liking a Myra's Unstable Element. It's definitely something to be thinking about at this point, because he has to preserve his health total, and fatigue doesn't help that. But not picking the Myras was a pretty conscious pick.
All right, Snipe does take down this Dread Corsair here. And Eaglehorn Bow, the draw for Staz here. So,
you could see Bow double attack and then multi-shot to clear the board. It's a bit of an over-expenditure.
He could just multi-shot first, and then could have to put less damage into the 0-6.
Sure.
It sort of depends whether he wants to push damage to face.
Yes. Yeah.
Or whether he wants to kill the 1-1. Looks like he's valuing the health on his minions and ensuring that he takes these 2 out. Just totally understandable. He has Zul'jin in hand. So right now for Staz, the name of the game is survive to play your big hero card.
No value being generated at all here for Deads. He was hoping for the Wrapped Golem or even a generous Mummy. He wouldn't have hated all too much, I dare say.
Right, and now with this Eviscerate, Deads is playing effectively a removal game, And he, like you said, he would probably love to have a Myra's Unstoppable Element right about now.
Yeah.
He's going to hold on to that Mermy because it is a combo enabler if he picks up a
Good
combo
point.
card. The Ursatron and Sun River Spy here.
I mean, you just play him.
Yeah, you just
get him.
play your stuff so it's in play. That's
fully agree.
this style of game right here.
Holding on to the bow as well seems pretty good, as face damage isn't too important, and with the secrets being replayed by Zul'jin.
Exactly. Zul'jin is, unless you're using it as a removal here. For instance, I could have seen an argument for taking out the Captain Greenskin, using the bow and your 2/2 to take out the Captain Greenskin, but Staz decides, okay, we're gonna let that slide here, and wants to have the opportunity to get additional charges of that bow with the Zul'jin. But gonna take a lot of damage here.
And it's kind of an interesting point now for Deads with respect to the sap, because it's it's not fantastic on the just using it on the Ursatron here, but I guess he's probably in the mindset that Zul'jin, he probably loses anyway if Zul'jin comes down.
That is often the correct mindset to have against Zul'jin, because that's often just factually accurate against Zul'jin.
I would definitely agree with that. So we need to think about what he's got in the pool. There's a multi-shot, which can now target one minion. It doesn't have to target
There's
two.
a multi-shot, there's a marked shot.
Yes.
There's a flare, there's snipe.
Is there a tracking?
There's a tracking. Is there an animal companion?
Can't remember.
I
think we got a pretty good record.
But there's a lot of things.
Stuff.
There's a lot of things. So Staz is figuring out, okay, do I want to attack with my minions first? If I attack with do I attack a 2/1 into this to guarantee that I kill your guy with multi-shot? But if I do that, then what happens if I if I mark shot my own guy, make it more likely?
I think it's pretty reasonable to go first with Zul'jin, because the worst that can happen is one of your minions is multi-shotted, and then when the green skin is hit, or is marked shot, sorry, and then when green skin is hit with the multi-shot, then you trade in your other one.
All right, well,
yeah, there we go.
Huffer takes the marked shot. Ooh,
like
and there's even there's a kill command too. Ooh, your own face. That's actually a little scary.
That's the one really bad thing, I think.
Right, yeah, but the fact that he got the coin does allow him to arcane shot to take this down. And
primarily the fact that he got Zephyrus, which may offer healing.
Yeah, this is...
But will probably actually just offer lethal.
Right. Well, I mean, right now, 11 life for Deads here, and none of this is going to be good enough to actually take this whole board out. Mermy does get sniped.
And then at 9 health, Leroy to the face.
Well, Leroy Zephyrus will give you Savage Roar, which will be lethal.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you could go like Hero Power Face, and then it would give you Arcane Shot or whatever. There's a lot of ways that it would deliver lethal here.
We do see Zephyrus constantly give Savage Roar, and the number of times I see Savage Roar, it's like, then I look at the math, I'm like, this doesn't kill my opponent. What do you want me to do? But this will, Leroy by itself is quite nearly lethal, and then Zephyrus... Roar. We don't get to see, sadly, but Wind Fury.
That'll do it too.
It's the cute way to do it. It's the cute way to do it. I like the opportunity to take like the fancy looking out from Zephyrus. So
I also enjoyed hearing your roar, however, though. That was
I mean, Wind Fury.
Inspiring.
What is it?
I enjoyed that too. I'm having a great time. I
should actually just be the sound effects for every card in the game, I think.
I would literally pay $2 for that.
No. This is for the $2.
Oh,
I don't want to shake your hand.
I don't. Yeah, I probably gonna do it. It's quite sweaty.
Yeah.
I don't have $2 on me.
Like a wet nap. I feel gross.
Sorry, Brian. Well, I think we're pretty much ready to head into our next game of this series. Again, the the Reno Hunter up against the Aggro Rogue, taking what I would call consistently unexpected victories here. Is Staz on his Hunter.
Yeah, and this Deads is going for the Togwaggle package again. I do not like it. I feel like this is just a mistake. I feel like going to this deck that has these expensive, slower cards here is just not where you want to be. If you win this by being fast, not by like the Togwaggle. He only has the Miscreants to activate it too. I just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I was in the break room listening to your tirade against this player, and I fully agree.
It's not against the player; it's against the decision, right?
Well, I mean, okay, the player's decision-making process, and I fully agree. I think that it, maybe we're misunderstanding how the average game can go against the Hunter, but I think what is much more likely is that you suffer by losing early board control.
I feel like we're missing something. That Zephyrus just came down. There's no card.
Yeah, well, it was in the Rogue, right? You play it for the post Myris.
Oh, right. Yeah, never mind. I was thinking the other way around. I was like, okay, you're going to Zephyrus. Then I'm like, oh, no, right. This is just the regular Rogue deck.
When you say we're missing something, if you mean in the Royal version of we, then you're correct.
Yeah, because I'm the king.
Exactly, Brian.
No, I don't know what to talk about that. Anyway, the Zephyrus from Staz, which is actually going to do something here. It can get him a backstab to remove the opposing Zephyrus, which is a really big deal.
And I think you go for it, right? Like, on turn 3 against a Rogue, the worst case scenario that can happen is obviously backstab SI, but I don't think you can afford to play around something that drastic when the vast majority of the time you pull pretty far in the lead.
Right. Well, exactly what I was just saying is that what you care about as, on both sides is being faster. You want to be first to the board. You want to be putting in as much damage and board presence as you can. Frankly, as the hunter rather, you care a bit less about damage. You just care about keeping the board clear, because the longer the game goes, if your life total is secure, the more likely that you win. And we see the waggle pick come down for deads here, and still Staz at 30. This is going to draw him a Ziliax. There's now he has freezing trap ooze this turn with Ziliax, the Hyena Alpha. This is just
nuts.
This is just all, going fantastically for Staz.
And the light at the end of the tunnel for Staz as well, even if things aren't going, even if he's not getting an early lethal, is still that Zul'jin. It has to do very little at all for it to still just be probably a lockout victory for him.
Yeah, and, this Henge Clan Thug, not really that impressive. In particular, the fact that there's a freezing trap on the other side.
Yeah, if the waggle pick hadn't been destroyed, we were looking at Miscreant and then just swing it back, replay the Miscreant for one activation, or even just Deadly Poison first would have been okay.
What would be great here would be if that Togwaggle was a South Sea deckhand.
I mean, literally anything else.
I'm just at a loss for this decision to have Togwaggle in your deck when it just sits in your hand and doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I would say, kind of to Deads' credit, the average draw he's gotten since switching to this secondary deck has been worse than it should be, even including the fact that he has a heavier deck. But I still agree that it's not maximizing his chances.
All right, and Deads picks an Eviscerate, but now we were talking in the previous game, this Rogue deck is pretty bad at dealing with wide boards. And this is about as wide as it gets. There's 6 minions on the board. He's got to use a Deadly Poison just for a single charge. Gonna Miscreant, gonna Eviscerate.
And I think what's becoming pretty quickly apparent is that even with Faceless into the Togwaggle next turn, it's just going to be much too slow because he's going to be dead.
There's 10 damage on the board. Yeah. This is like one-off lethal this turn, right? He has Life Drinker hero power.
Yeah. I like saving the Life Drinker for the surprise as well. Push everything face.
I mean, next turn you just have guaranteed lethal from hand with Life Drinker hero power.
You do indeed.
I mean, this is a matchup that typically is bad for the hunter, because the rogue typically is substantially faster. That's interesting from Staz here, deciding not to just put his opponent down to 4. I guess there is the threat of maybe there's a Ziliax from the other deck. I don't really know what exactly that was about, because you literally just have guaranteed non-combat lethal in your hand if you go face.
Like Ziliax still, all it does is starts to clear up the board, right? And I agree.
But either way, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, and Dead sees it as well, and that is Staz winning another tough matchup against Rogue and putting himself in top 8 for sure.
Yeah, I think
that is a record of 10-2.
Pretty certain he's through to the top 8 now, especially given, as you said, 8-0 to start out the tournament. He is one of the main reasons why Reno Hunter, at least at the start of the day, was the highest performing deck here in Masters Tour Seoul, which I find very surprising indeed. But the more I see, the more I understand.
Yeah, I feel like it is a deck that is strong against, it's strong as Mage. because you put a lot of pressure on them. You have a lot of burst from hand. You have a lot of ways that you can disrupt a lot of what they want to be doing. And I do feel like its weaknesses are decks like Rogue, but there haven't been that many of these very aggressive decks like Rogue. And frankly, what we've seen on camera, it's managed to win some of those as well.
And I think what we will see, again, with what I talk about a lot with Specialist is respect to the fact that sideboarding is a difficult art to get right. And I think with the Rogue decks, especially the aggro Rogue, switching away from the value Togwaggle lines and towards something like a mech package, maybe with Coppertails and Wargears for more hidden aggro burst damage, or even just more damage, like Sinister Strikes like Dan wants to do.
I just want to play my main deck. If I'm going to play against those Hunters, I want to play my main deck. Kill him.
That seems fair.
Kill him.
Yeah.
But I believe that we are about ready to reveal the standings after our final round of Swiss and see who is going to make it through to our top 8.
I'm very excited to find out who it's going to be. There's a few names that I think are pretty securely through. Felkeen, obviously.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Sorry, spoilers
Spoiler
again.
alert.
Zim, at least going into this, was a very, very solid record as well. Another Frenchman, they're doing very, very well here in Masters Tour Seoul, indeed. And now Staz at that 10-2 record, I think most likely.
You're just trying to spoil everyone. You're just like, it's going to be this person, this person. Don't bother watching anymore. Of what's
I'm trying to
because
stall until we get the standings up.
You're not supposed to say that out loud.
I'm parting the kimono, Brian.
Oh, now. What do you know?
As soon as I start being completely outrageous, they're like, right,
get
him off the screen. Get him off the screen.
Here we go. These are our final standings. After 12 rounds of Swiss, we see RNG Liss at 11-1 in first place. Zim, Dead Draw, Staz, Magaho, Unid, Felkane, and Suni. So this top 8, let's talk a little bit about this. So we've seen quite a few of these players, playing on camera, of course, throughout the weekend. We have Staz, who we just saw playing Hunter. Let's just break down the archetypes that at least we know of, because I'm not 100. Liss we saw on camera before. Unid, I don't quite recall having seen on camera, but I believe that we at least saw him in one of the backup matches. But Suni was actually the player we saw who actually was defeated in that last round by Felkane, but he had a good enough initial record to make it through to the top 8 on tiebreakers, and his practice partner and friend, Physics King, in 9th place. So that's 2 players playing the combo pre-stack, and then Empanizado in 11th place.
Yeah.
Another combo pre-stack. Also in excellent position overall in the tournament.
And I think this is it's kind of cute, especially given that Physics King and Suni had literally card-for-card identical lineups and finished 1 place apart out of a field of like 300. It's pretty crazy to think about that. I'm trying to get the Battlefy page up right now to see what the players have got there. But from off the top of my head, I remember that Dead Draw, a player I'm very excited to see through, a fellow UK Hearthstone player who's doing very well. Him and Magaho are on the Warriors.
Right.
Dead Draw on the Control Warrior, Magaho on the Bomb Warrior, which I was, again, fairly happy to see, just to see how these matchups line up in the new Saviors of Uldum meta. But I believe if we are ready to go to a quick break, was that production to go to closing statements? Just going to make sure, because again, I just want to make sure on this one. Or if we're filling for more time before the break. I'm trying to get a comment here, production. Are we going to a break now? We're going to a break.
Right,
okay.
You got it.
Wasn't sure if I heard you. Just wanted to make sure. There we go. That is going to be us all done with the Swiss record.
Elegant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Shut up, Brian. You don't know me. We're going to go to a break. Don't go anywhere, because we have the initial top 8 matches with all of those top 8 competitors here at Masters Tour Seoul right after this with not me and not Brian.